All right, let's get cooking. Welcome to the latest edition of Chin Check Sports Radio. I'm your host, JD. I want to thank you all for taking the time out to join us. And as always, we welcome any suggestions, feedback, comments, and criticisms, which improves the quality of our program, which ultimately improves your listening experience. Once again, before we get started, we want to send you all our well wishes during this current pandemic of COVID-19. We know that it's not an easy time right now, and we know that it's the uncertainty that fuels our anxiety, but let us continue to still do our part by practicing the safety measures, continuing to practice social distancing, washing our hands, as well as wearing our masks out in public. Let's continue to do our part to slow the spread and stem the tide of this virus of the likes that we have never seen before. And if we at Chin Check Radio can continue to be a distraction with everything that's going on, then that is what we will continue to do. We also want to send you all our thank you so much for your support. At least every other day or every few days, somebody they're reaching out to us by telling us how much that they enjoy our program, they like our content, they like our passion. We've definitely brought sports analysis from a different lens than the mainstream sports media, because again, we are different than the mainstream sports media. So we thank you all for your tremendous support, and we'll continue to make you proud. And if anything, pass the word on to another friend. We're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys 2020 Week 1, but just want to talk about this NFL season. It was definitely weird watching pro football without fans in the stands, and obviously we know why, because of the pandemic. And it's definitely surreal watching football without fans. But I think the bigger issue, and I think the bigger hand, or I would say the applause that the players deserve, is the fact that they are out there playing football. And I know there was questions if a lot of them wanted to play. Some players, they did opt out. Some players thought about opting out. And I couldn't be mad at them, because remember, these men have families. These other, even people who work for the team, the coaches, the staff, they have families as well. We know that if you watch the Hard Knocks with the Rams and the Chargers, that they went through COVID testing all the time. Safety measures were in place. So we know that they definitely went through a little bit to get back on the field, to do what they love to do, as well as to entertain us. So I just want to say to all the players in the NFL, and I've been mentioning this to all the basketball players, but to all the NFL players in the NFL, thank you very much for even wanting to play football with everything that's going on. And you guys are definitely kind of helping people heal with everything that's going on. So we thank you so much for even wanting to go out there and play. And definitely, guys are definitely playing well, considering that you guys had a different off season. So again, we at Chin Check Radio definitely want to give you our big applause. Now, dissecting the Dallas Cowboys Week 1 20-17 loss at the Los Angeles Rams. Definitely got some things to talk about here. Definitely more losses than what the score would actually indicate. But your final score was 20-17. Our stats: quarterback Dak Prescott, 25 of 39 yards. 25 of 39 attempts, 266 yards for one touchdown. Running back Ezekiel Elliott, 22 carries for 96 yards and one touchdown. Even added 3 catches for 31 yards and one touchdown. Amari Cooper, 10 catches for 81 yards. Rookie sensation CeeDee Lamb, 5 catches for 59 yards. And Michael Gallup, 3 catches for 50 yards. And we're going to get to one big catch or non-catch later on in the game. The Dallas Cowboys defense gave up 422 total yards. Out of that 422, 153 yards were on the ground. The Dallas Cowboys defense only got 1 sack. Folks, let me say this again. The Dallas Cowboys defense only got 1 sack. That's a problem. Versus the Rams, who end up getting 3 sacks. The Chin Check player of the game, and you probably see him on the screen now, is going to be Aldon Smith. For a guy who has not played professional football in 5 years, he clearly was the best defensive player for the Cowboys on the field this evening. And really by far, He had 11 total tackles, 6 solo, 1 sack, and 1 tackle for a loss. Linebacker Jalen Smith, 11 total tackles, 5 solo. Safety Darian Thompson, 10 total tackles, 9 solo. Xavier Woods, 9 total tackles, 6 solo. Chidobe Awuzie, 2 total tackles, 2 solo tackles, and the lone interception. DeMarcus Lawrence, starting defensive end, high-priced defensive end, 0 sacks. Everson Griffin, 0 sacks. So definitely not the way to begin the Mike McCarthy era in Dallas. The team, if you go back and watch that first drive, the Rams pretty much just drove the ball down the field on them really at whim. So that was very concerning considering all these new additions with Everson Griffin and Dontari Poe. So was definitely disappointing to see. At one point, the Cowboys did take the lead at 14-13. The kicker Zerline had a missed kick. Maybe that has something to do with the Cowboys not going for it deep in Rams territory. That could have tied the game. They instead go for the 4th down. I don't know what pass was that to CeeDee Lamb. It looks like obviously he did catch it, but clearly they didn't throw the ball past the 3 or 4 yards that was needed. The Rams defensive back made a great play on the ball, so I have to give them credit, but I don't know what the hell pass is that. And I'm like, just line up, kick the ball. It should be a chip shot for your kicker, and if it could not be a chip shot by Monday or Tuesday, you should be bringing in new kickers for a workout. What was also concerning in this game was the Dallas Cowboys only scored 3 points in the second half. 3 points. That's not good. That's not good at all. In fact, that's horrible. For a team that had, on paper, they were well offensively last year. Very disappointing what I saw, especially in that second half, because they pretty much got no points going. And I don't know, with some of the decisions that was made, maybe Mike McCarthy trying to breathe new life into the team or trying to motivate them differently than a Jason Garrett did. I don't know. But definitely to begin the Mike McCarthy era in the 2020 season, the Dallas Cowboys are 0-1. Now, everybody's going to talk about the play when the Cowboys are driving to hopefully get into field goal range. The catch by Michael Gallup, a little bit of acting by all-pro cornerback Jalen Ramsey. He clearly was beat on the play, did an excellent job of trying to sell that he was pushed. And, of course, replay slows things down, and it's easy to money quarterback. But that was a great pass, great catch by Dak Prescott to Michael Gallup, who clearly had Jalen Ramsey beat. And Jalen Ramsey prides himself on being a very physical cornerback, and he was out physical in that play and resorted to bag a trick. So people are going to say, that's what cost him the game. And I'm not going to say that. I'm not the type of person to say that one play cost him the game, because there were many other plays I felt that the Cowboys could have exploited, and they did nothing with it. So when you have to hang your hat to say, well, that one play cost us, you're forgetting about the other 59 minutes and 55 seconds. So, yes, it was a bad call. Yes, the Cowboys, they should have had the ball deep in Rams territory with a chance to even score the game-winning touchdown or even kick the game-winning field goal. But that's neither here nor there. It was an awful call, but awful calls happen all the time in professional football and really professional sports. And a good enough team should be able to overcome that. And quite frankly, it's been more of the same. The only difference what I see with the offense this year and last year is that they're trying to use Zeke more out of the backfield. But my thing is, I still have a quarterback who's throwing 9 to 10-yard passes, and I can think of maybe a handful of times, and I'm probably say even a less than handful of times of a quarterback who throws the ball 20 to 30 yards down the field. So at some point, we're going to have to start exploring, do we want to give this guy this amount of money that he's looking for, and I can't get a bunch of passes down the field past 20, 30 yards. That's a problem. So again, the one play that he did make, the drop in the bucket play that he did make, that was great. But I need more of that. I can't be paying no $40 million and I can't get a couple deep passes a game where you only do it only out of desperation. And again, a good cornerback made a veteran play, a veteran move, because I guess he knew that the referees were behind him. So I give Jalen Ramsey all the credit in the world. Bad call be damned. but I give him all the credit in the world for knowing where he was and knowing how to play to his strengths and doing a good job of acting. So yeah, it definitely was a bad call, but I'm not going to say that was a lone call that cost him the game. I don't necessarily subscribe to that theory. The Cowboys had a bunch of other sins that actually cost them this game. And some other bad news, even with this loss, Cam Irving was hurt. Starting tight end Blake Jarwin, who they gave a contract extension to, towards ACL, and you knew it was a possible ACL when he went down from a non-contact injury. He just fell down to the ground, and you saw him grabbing the outside of his knee, and you're like, that's probably an ACL. And my boy Stansel has sent me a Twitter message saying that he tore his ACL, and you know what that means. We'll see him in 2021. Linebacker, starting middle linebacker, Leighton Vander Esch. Fractured collarbone, a broken collarbone. You saw him being treated on the sidelines. The next you know, he walks back to the locker room. Then they come back and they confirm that he is out. Folks, that is very concerning for a couple of reasons. Is number one, that's your starting middle linebacker. Not good. So now they have to make some adjustments. Do they move the other backup linebacker? Do they move him to the middle? Do they have Jalen Smith making the calls, which that doesn't really play to his strengths? So now they have a bit of a problem at linebacker, and Sean Lee also being hurt. So they're going to have to make some adjustments, especially on the defensive side, because your starting middle linebacker is out. And keep in mind, they're actually still running the ball on the Cowboys, even with Leighton Vander Esch in the game. So defensive coordinator Mike Nolan is going to have to do some serious soul searching and some serious thinking. And the concern going forward is Leighton Vander Esch a Sean Lee 2.0. It's only fair to make that assumption because Sean Lee, as much of a playmaker as he is, and he was included on my Chin Check Radio all-time Dallas Cowboys team, but he's been hurt a lot and he's injury prone. Leighton Vander Esch, in only his third year in the league, is already banged up again. First year, 2018, everything. I'm not sure if he went to a Pro Bowl, but he should have went to a Pro Bowl. Played well as a rookie. Last year had a neck injury. This year, first play of the game, or first game of the year, fractured a broken collarbone, so he's going to be out for a little while. You figure collarbones at least, I'm thinking 6 to 8 weeks. So I like the kid. He has all the talent in the world, aka the Wolf Hunter. But it is very concerning that so young in his career, at the age of 23, 24, I don't think the kid is even 25, he's having all these injuries already, much like a Sean Lee, and that tends to hold your team hostage when you have a bunch of injury-prone players. So we're going to let this year play out, but I would definitely start looking for some other linebacker help if Sean Lee is always getting hurt, and that's been a pattern for pretty much the decade that he's been in the league, and we're starting to see the same pattern with Leighton Vander Esch about his inability to stay on the field. That's a problem. We don't have time to be playing musical chairs. Remember, a season is only 16 games, and after week 1, now we're only at 15 games. And they played some quality teams this year, so this is something that they're really going to have to make a decision, especially going forward this season as well as going forward in the subsequent years. What are they going to do about the health of one Leighton Vander Esch? But it is very concerning, as well as Cam Irving going out, having his ankle rolled on, and he had to be carted out of the locker room to wherever it is he was carted to. And the bottom line is, when you're carted somewhere, that's not a good thing. So that's your Dallas Cowboys 2020 Week 1 wrap-up, and they'll play the Atlanta Falcons next week to start their home opener, or I say their home opener rather. So it should be fun next week. The Falcons themselves are coming off a loss, but I've always noticed the Falcons and the Cowboys always play some tough games. So even though the Falcons were dominated by the Seattle Seahawks, it is not a shoo-in next week because the Falcons have a lot of weapons in Ridley and Gage and obviously the great Julio Jones, and you add in Todd Gurley. So the Falcons have weapons on offense that could really stretch the Cowboys defense out. So it should be interesting how it plays out next week, and we're definitely looking forward to it. Now, this is something that I waited to speak on, and I was going to do a separate broadcast about it, but I said, you know what, I'm going to wait and tie everything in together. And these were the recent comments made by Fox Sports analyst Skip Bayless, regarding Dak Prescott recently speaking out and saying that during COVID, he has suffered through depression and, with his brother recently dying, that kind of put him over the top by seeking help. So there was kind of this wording and fair criticism to Skip Bayless by saying that Dak Prescott is a quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, and that's not a good thing, and he's a quarterback of America's team, and get tough and get over it. And I think Dak was saying, what those things I was going through with COVID is something that, I felt comfortable speaking about, that these may be some things that could have maybe stressed my brother out, because now come to find out his brother took his own life, and that's something that we never knew. So that's something that Dak Prescott chose to share. I commend his strength for it. And my issue with Skip Bayless is this, the little bastard that he is. And yes, I said the little bastard that he is. Folks, that is a prime example of when you let people get too damn comfortable. When they get too comfortable kind of running their mouth. Skip Bayless has been very disrespectful to professional athletes for a long time, especially black professional athletes. And he has called athletes out of their name. Athletes have told him, well, I think that's disrespectful what you're doing, but not referring to me by my actual name. He sits there and says that he doesn't care. He insults athletes, takes a low run on athletes. I understand criticizing athletes, but he tends to get personal with his criticism unless the criticism is heaped on him, and then he goes into victim mode. This is the same Skip Bayless that you can look this up when Jalen Rose called him out about being a junior varsity point guard who only averaged 1.4 points a game. And you saw the look on his face saying that I'll talk to you offline, and every Negro coon from ESPN tried to defend Skip Bayless, and all of a sudden he went into victim mode by saying how he was hurt by those comments, he was affected by those comments, and even Jalen Rose to a certain extent he was apologizing. I'm like, no, don't apologize anything, because what Skip says about a lot of athletes is his opinion. He's paid to give his opinion. However, what Jalen Rose said about Skip Bayless was the actual truth. He was a JV point guard who only averaged 1 point whatever points a game. Either way, he sucked. So, and he clearly had a problem with that. He tried to get sympathy when he spoke about his drunk upbringing with his drunk mom and drunk dad, and he put that out there, and people felt sorry for him. Oh, Skip, he came from a rough upbringing. Let me say this right now. Growing up poor white in America versus poor black, there's still an advantage of growing up poor white in America than it is poor black. So when Skip Bayless put that story out, and I read that story, Daddy was drunk, Daddy never believed in him, Mama might have been a savior, but she might have been drunk too. It doesn't mean anything to me. And I sat there and said, yeah, he's making a sympathy. And then he even tried to bring that up about, well, I grew up in a household and I did this and I did that. First of all, you're not one to compare anybody's struggle to your own. And that's Dak's struggle that he felt, you know what, I feel comfortable talking about this, and it's something that I'm going to talk about, and pretty much it was expressing how he felt. So for you to say that he shouldn't be this way because he's the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys and the responsibility. So if he was the quarterback of the Vikings, it wouldn't make a difference. If he was the quarterback of the Rams, would that make a difference? So the fact that he even felt comfortable to even speak that, and then almost tried to double down in his comments, no, the man was speaking about something that he was going through personally. I don't have a problem with that. And I agree with what Shannon Sharp said about being these athletes. Like, these professional athletes, they're human. They're not robots, yes, even though they built like robots, they train like robots, but deep down inside, they are human beings. They're not cyborgs. They're none of that. They are human beings. So for Skip Bayless to constantly keep putting his foot in his mouth with his criticism, and let's keep this in mind, again, the Lil Waynes of the world want to bring him drip and stuff like that, and I guess he feels that he has a black pass. No, Skip, you don't have a black pass. You're a white man who pretty much grew up in a white trash world, and you really have no room to really be criticizing some of these brothers. But yet, for some reason, people let you do it because you get mad and you pump your fist and you raise your voice and you mad and you scream, and nobody's told you to shut the hell up. And the problem is, when you have been put in your place, then you're quick to go into victim mode. But I've watched the way how you disrespected people on ESPN First Take as as well as Undisputed, and I've watched your level of disrespect and the fact that you haven't been called out on it, and you even said when you made the comments about Dak Prescott is that you're going to face a criticism, where at least on Chin Check Radio, we're going to tell you how much of an ass that you really are. And I felt the comments were disgusting, and I felt that the fact that you grew up in a white trash world, don't put that on anybody else. So these are our comments regarding what Skip Bayless had to say, and if Skip Bayless has a problem with it, he can kiss the blackest part of our ass. So this is Chin Check Radio until the next time, and we're signing off.